Yo, what is going on, everyone? My name is Nick, or The Notorious Fantasy, and in today's video, we're going to be going in depth into my week number 16. It's playoff time, baby. Wide receiver, start or sit decisions. We're going to be breaking down every single matchup from the Thursday games to all the games on Christmas Eve on Saturday to Christmas on Sunday, and then Monday Night Football from the wide receiver position. But before we could get into things, I would like to ask that if you guys are new to the channel and you do end up enjoying today's video, that you please make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. And while you're down there, whether you are new to the channel or not, please make sure that you do leave a like on today's video. It would help me out a ton. If you want to follow me on Twitter, please do so at NotoriousFNTSY. Today's video is being brought to you guys by BetMGM, who we'll be talking about a little bit later. So without further ado, let's get into my week number 16 wide receiver start or sit decisions. We begin with Thursday Night Football, the Jacksonville Jaguars at the New York Jumbo Jets. In this matchup, sadly, for everyone outside of Zach Wilson's immediate family, as well as some of the older women that he gets down with, Zach Wilson will be the starting quarterback for the New York Jumbo Jets in this game. Now, he wasn't absolutely terrible last week, but at the end of the day, it just appears that Mike White is just a lot better than him, and especially for Garrett Wilson's fantasy football value, if you have Garrett Wilson, you would definitely want Magic Mike White under center. Now, Garrett Wilson is still probably a middle-of-the-road wide receiver too, a guy that you're going to start up against a not-so-hot Jacksonville Jaguars defense, but his upside of being like a top 5 or top 10 wide receiver is heavily dampened by the fact that Zach Wilson just really isn't all that good. When it comes to Zay Jones as well as Christian Kirk, at this point in the season, it really does feel like Zay Jones is the number 1 wide receiver on this team. Now, Christian Kirk still put up a decent showing last week against the Cowboys. So it's not like you should be benching Christian Kirk or anything, but at this point, if I had both of them and I could only start one, well, I think Zay Jones is a little bit more risky. The guy has been seeing a shit ton of targets over the last couple of games. He has been dominant. I understand that the matchup up against the Jets, it's not a wet dream matchup, right? It's not like going up against the Jaguars, which is a really good matchup. The Jets have one of the better defenses in the NFL, but ultimately, I still feel confident in Zay Jones as well as Christian Kirk, and Zay Jones is a must-start wide receiver on the week. In terms of the other wide receivers in this game, Marvin Jones Jr., he could score a touchdown, though this matchup is pretty negative, and he's very clearly the number 4 option on this team behind Zay Jones, Christian Kirk, as well as Evan Ingram, Elijah Moore, as well as Corey Davis. Elijah Moore is an incredibly talented player. The problem is Zach Wilson just does not fucking throw the ball to him, and Corey Davis just, again, while the matchup is good, I just don't trust Zach Wilson. Next up, we move to the beginning of the Saturday slate. Again, important to note that all of the games, or a majority of the games, are on Saturday this week. We have a Thursday Night Football game, bunch of Saturday games, then we have 3 Sunday games on Christmas, and then 1 Monday Night Football game as per usual. So in the Falcons at the Baltimore Ravens here, we are going to be firing up Drizzy Drake London, but he is just barely a start. Like in Home Improvement, the show, when you see that guy peeking over the fence, Drake London is just barely peeking over the fence to be a start. Now, Desmond Ridder did throw him the ball a bunch, which is incredibly positive, especially up against the Ravens defense, but it's not like Desmond Ridder looks really great. So while Drake London might see a bunch of targets, at the end of the day, this is still a team that wants to run the rock at an incredibly fucking exorbitant rate. They try to run the ball at an incredibly high clip, and that's why Tyler Algier Hulk smashed last week. So again, while Drake London is start worthy, he's not going to be a guy I'm banging the drum aggressively for. In terms of the other wide receivers in this game, the Ravens wide receiver core is an absolute fucking joke that has to get someone fired, because whether or not Lamar Jackson plays, that's pretty up in the air right now. It's crazy that Lamar Jackson has to deal with DeMarcus Robinson, Devin Duvernay, and Deshaun fucking Jackson as his 3 main wide receivers. It is a joke. Lamar Jackson must be so pissed. Olamide Zacchaeus as well as Damiere Byrd are going to be sits for me as well. This game just kind of reeks in terms of wide receiver options besides Drake London. And again, it's not like Drake London is this top tier upper echelon option. Next up, we move to the Detroit Lions going up against the Carolina Panthers in Carolina. In this matchup, I like both Amon-Ra St. Brown as well as DJ Moore. DJ Moore has kind of been revived by the fact that mono man Sam Darnold is under center. The Lions defense is obviously bottom of the barrel, straight up dick cheese. So I think DJ Moore, wiki, could have a very solid game in this spot. Both him and Amon-Ra St. Brown have top 5 upside. Now, Amon-Ra St. Brown's also a guy that is in the must-start category. I definitely feel a little bit more safer playing him over DJ Moore because, let's be honest with you, while Sam Darnold has been pretty solid recently, it's not like Sam Darnold's even on the skill level of Jared Goff, who's not even amazing either. But Amon-Ra St. Brown's been really consistent as of recently. The Panthers defense isn't some bottom-of-the-barrel defense, but at the end of the day, I still think Amon-Ra St. Brown could get it done. DJ Chark is going to be a sit for me for the Lions. Now, he's one of those guys that's kind of close to being a start. Like, if you told me that you'd rather start DJ Chark over Drake London, I'm not going to have some type of fucking hissy fit arguing with you in the comment section. If you have any questions, make sure you leave them down below in the comment section. Jamison Williams has looked pretty good, really fast, but just hasn't seen enough of a target share in this offense for him to be reliable, especially up against the Panthers that, again, I believe kind of have a sneaky good defense. Terrace Marshall Jr. as well as Laviska Shenault Jr. are going to be sits for me. I really only trust DJ Moore in this Panthers offense. Next up, we move to the Buffalo Bills at the Chicago Bears. The Chicago Bears have absolutely no one to throw the fucking ball to because Chase Claypool is out, as is Darnell. Here comes the Mooney. So they've got Dante Pettis, the king of the chip, Byron Pringle, and Equanimeous St. Brown. Justin Fields might be a fucking superhero, but at the end of the day, he's not going to be able to elevate any of these garbage cans to being fantasy relevant. And if one of them becomes fantasy relevant, you're going to have no fucking idea which one it's going to be going into the game. For the Buffalo Bills, Stephon Diggs is obviously a start. You could have, if you had Stephon Diggs, you fucking knew to start him anyways, right? You didn't have to watch this video to be like, oh, I should start Stephon Diggs, right? Of course you're going to, up against the garbage Chicago Bears defense. Stephon Diggs could have one of his better games of the year and could easily be the number 1 receiver. Gabe Davis is a sit. I explain Gabe Davis every single week, and it's pretty simple. It's still the same mantra that I go with every other week. It's that Gabe Davis has the upside to score 25 plus points in any given matchup because he's a great receiver on the Buffalo Bills, one of the best offenses in the NFL. The biggest problem is the fact that he doesn't get a bunch of targets every game like Diggs, so he's going to have to take his 4 or 5 targets for 3 catches, 150 yards, and 2 touchdowns to be truly fantasy relevant. Now, again, he's still start worthy in some situations. There are a lot worse options than Gabe Davis, and he's playing up against the Bears, which is a good matchup, but we just haven't really seen any consistency out of Gabe Davis. Isaiah McKenzie is going to be a sit as well. They have been using Dawson Knox a lot more, which kind of scares me away from McKenzie, as well as the fact that Cole Beasley is back on the team. Next up, we move to the New Orleans Saints at the Cleveland Browns. We just have to be honest when we talk about how Deshaun Watson is playing. He is not playing like he used to play in Houston. Now, he isn't terrible. Like, you watch the game and you're like, next year Deshaun Watson should be good, right? But as I'm watching the game, I start to realize that Amari Cooper has kind of fallen out of favor, and Donovan Peoples-Jones has propelled himself as the top receiver in this Browns offense. Now, the matchup against the Saints is pretty good, so you can start both Amari Cooper and Donovan Peoples-Jones, and I probably will end up having Amari Cooper ranked higher than Donovan Peoples-Jones in the wide receiver ranking video later on in the week. But at this point, call me fucking crazy, but I trust Donovan Peoples-Jones more than I trust Amari Cooper. Chris Olave is a start for me. He hasn't been the best this season, but he's a really talented wide receiver that has the upside to break big plays. The problem is Andy Dalton just really fucking sucks. In terms of sits for this game, I'm gonna sit Rashid Shaheed of the Saints. Now, he's been getting these fucking bombs thrown to him, 40, 50-yard catches, and let's be honest with you, how reliable can that be every single week? Now, if you're down bad and you think you're going to lose your game and you just want to play someone that's literally a fuck it, this guy might get 2 points, he might score 30, I guess you could play Rashid Shaheed, but that's not really the game I'm trying to play. Is starting someone like that. Like, I don't know. It just seems like fucking crazy to do. Jarvis Landry is going to be a sit as well, as is David Bell. But before we get on into the rest of the games here, I would like to give you guys a quick word for our friends, our sponsor over at BetMGM. In the spirit of giving through the holiday season, BetMGM has partnered with OddsShopper to offer a $25 free bet on top of their first bet insurance of up to $1,000 to new players who sign up for a BetMGM account using the link down below or in the video description or in the pinned comment. This free bet promo will only be offered during Christmas week from now December 20th, technically started December 19th, through December 26th. So all you got to do is simply follow the link to sign up for an account with BetMGM, deposit $10 or more to receive a free $25 bet, and shoot for the moon with your first wager. If your first bet loses, BetMGM will give you free bet credits equal to the amount of your first bet, up to $1,000. So make sure you guys check that out. Link in the video description and in the pinned comment down below. So back on into things here. Following this beautiful matchup of the Saints versus the Browns that everyone is super excited about, we move to the Seattle Seahawks at the Kansas City Chiefs. Sadly, the Seahawks lost Tyler Lockett for what feels like at least the next couple of games. DK Metcalf is now the clear number one option on the team. The Chiefs defense is a little bit underrated, but at the same time, they're not some upper echelon defense in the NFL. DK Metcalf without Tyler Lockett is obviously a must-start wide receiver, because even with Tyler Lockett there, we're starting him, and now the upside's even more because he might just get peppered with targets. So he's going to be a start, as is Chiefs wide receiver Mr. Corvette, Juju Smith-Schuster. It appears that he is clearly back as the number one wide receiver on this team. The Seahawks have another defense that's a little bit underrated, but at the end of the day, Patrick Mahomes has been force-feeding the rock down Juju Smith-Schuster's throat, so he's obviously going to be a start. Marquise Goodwin is one of those guys that is a fringe start. If you are in a deeper league, you could consider him without Tyler Lockett, because now he will slot in as the number two receiver on the team. But obviously, I don't have the most amount of trust in Marquise Goodwin. But really, outside of Goodwin and Metcalf, their number three receiver is fucking Penny Hart. Who the fuck is that guy? So ultimately, I do have some trust in Goodwin. MVS, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, is a sit. This guy is, every once in a while, he's going to have a big game. And like last week, and then you're going to be like, oh shit, MVS is back, baby. And then you roll him out, and then against the Seahawks, he gets like 3 fucking points. Kadarius Toney, there's no way you're starting this guy at this point. Next up, we move to the Giants at the Minnesota Vikings. The Vikings having the greatest comeback in NFL history last week. The craziest fucking game I have ever seen. The offense of the Colts and the defense just combined, sugar, spice, and everything nice to shit the bed completely in the second half of that game. Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen went to pound town, forming an Eiffel Tower over that Indianapolis Colts defense, and Justin Jefferson was obviously a must start. Adam Thielen earlier on in the season was one of those guys that continued to see a really high amount of volume, but the problem is he wasn't really producing with the amount of volume that he's got. Recently, he's kind of flipped the switch and been a lot more productive, so I'm definitely going to start Adam Thielen here up against the Giants defense. Darius Slayton is a fringe start. The guy has a lot of upside. The Vikings have one of the worst defenses in the NFL against the pass, so Darius Slayton is going to be a start, but not one of those upper echelon guys like Justin Jefferson. Adam Thielen's kind of in the middle. He's not an upper echelon start, but in a lot of situations, you're going to start him. Isaiah Hodgins was on a touchdown tear over the last couple of games last week, did not find pay dirt. Richie James has been decent as well, but you don't really want to be hinging your fantasy football playoffs on any of these Giants wide receivers. KJ Osborne fucking exploded, a phenomenal performance up against the Indianapolis Colts, but that's the first time this motherfucker has done anything all season long, so betting on him to do it again seems like a stupid bet. Next up, we move to the Cincinnati Bengals at the New England Patriots, and speaking of things that are stupid, Jacoby Myers, you dumb fuck, what were you doing? Now, actually, I don't know who's more to blame. Is it Ramondre Stevenson or Jacoby Myers? Because guess what? It's not like the game is going to fucking end and you're going to lose if you just fall over. You're going to kick the field goal, right? Nothing's gonna happen. It's gonna be just okay. But instead, your dumbass flicks it to Jacoby Myers, who throws the ball a million yards back for Mac Jones to try to grab the ball. He gets stiff-armed into fucking Middle Earth, and then the man runs into the end zone. It was the funniest thing I've ever seen. As someone who hates the New England Patriots deep inside my core, that was the funniest thing I've ever seen. I was laughing for like 20 fucking minutes. That was hilarious. And the way Mac Jones literally got stiff-armed, little Mac got sent into the ether. That was literally hilarious. Jacoby Myers is still start worthy. He is still clearly the best wide receiver on the team. The Bengals defense is nothing amazing, so I think Jacoby Myers should be able to get it done, but he's not in the same range as a guy obviously like Jamar Chase or T. Higgins. Now, last week I was off of T. Higgins. It was very clear that the week prior they were just tickling our balls with the news on T. Higgins that, oh, he's gonna play. Then he plays like 3 fucking snaps. I thought we were about to get diddled with yet again, and then obviously on Sunday Sunday against the Bucks. T. Higgins has a great game. So Titty Boy, T. Higgins is back in our good faith, and he is going to be a start for me, as is Jamar Chase. Tyler, Boyd is going to be a sit for me as well. Again, when T. Higgins and Jamar Chase are both healthy, Tyler Boyd becomes the kind of outsider, like the book. Nelson Aguilar as well as Tyquan Thornton are going to be sits for me. When Jacoby Myers is healthy, I just don't feel like there's any way to trust Nelson Aguilar or Tyquan Thornton. So next up, we move to the Houston Texans at the Les Titans, the Tennessee Titans. For the Texans, we'll keep this one short. If Chris Moore is the only wide receiver that is healthy out of him, Nico Collins, and Brandon Cooks, I am fine starting him. Now, I'm not going to bang the drum for him, but he's a decent start. I know he shit the bed last week, but I think he's better than that. So if Nico Collins and Brandon Cooks miss, you play Chris Moore. If Nico Collins or Brandon Cooks, one of them plays, you can start Chris Moore, but with less confidence. And if they both play, there's no way you're starting Chris Moore. This situation is gross. The Texans, sneaky good. Now, I'm not saying they're actually a good team, but they're just better than the record says. They've kept these last couple of games close, or maybe they are just really bad, and the other team is kind of just fucking with them a little bit, kind of like when you put, what is that called? Have you guys, I don't know what it's called, something with a dollar where, I don't know if this was like what I saw of this when I was a kid, but I really strongly remember this. And if someone in the chat knows, someone told me the name of the painting that was like this the other day. So people know a lot more references than I do, but you know what I'm talking about, where maybe this is Jackass, but it's definitely not, because there's no way I saw that as like a 9-year-old, but where they attach like, or maybe it was in SpongeBob, where they attach a dollar to like a fishing pole, and then they fucking run the fishing pole with the dollar on it, and they bring it back, and the dollar's like running, and they fucking run to go get it. I don't know what that's from, but yeah, that's what I was talking about. So Treylon Burks is a start if he plays. The Texans defense is bottom of the barrel, god-awful dog shit. So if Burks plays, I'm gonna play him, but this Titans offense is just fucking whack. Robert Woods, Sir Bobby Trees is going to be a sit for me, as is Nick Westbrook, Ikain. Like, if Burks is healthy, you don't want anything to do with these other options, and even Burks is kind of, has a short leash at this point. I mean, the season's almost over, but Tannehill, man. This guy's a disaster this season. Next up, we move to the Commanders at the San Francisco 49ers. Jahan Dotson has went to Pound Town in back-to-back weeks with Taylor Heineke under center. Now, this week, they get the 49ers defense, which is one of the toughest matches to go against as an offense on the season. So I don't necessarily expect a smash matchup out of either Terry McLaurin or Jahan Dotson, but I still think they are both start-worthy. And at this point, it might be crazy, but I think I'd feel more safe playing Terry McLaurin, but I think Jahan Dotson might have a little bit more upside. Brandon Ayuk is start-worthy as well. Without Deebo Samuel, they have to throw the ball to Brandon Ayuk. Now, Ayuk did not flourish last week up against the Seattle Seahawks. This week against the Commanders, which on paper should be a better matchup for Ayuk. Don't love him, but he's played good enough this season to kind of earn my respect. Curtis Samuel is a fun player to watch. He's kind of the gadget player for the Commanders, but recently he hasn't really been good at all. Spock calls him, Captain Spock, commenter, friend of the program, always calls him Curtis Samuel, and at this point, it's kind of what it's looking like. Juwan Jennings, sorry about that, is going to be a sit, as well as is Ray McLeod. Next up, we move to the Eagles at the Cowboys, likely without Jalen Hurts. Now, Nick Sirianni, head coach of the Eagles, came out and said, oh, we're not ruling out Jalen Hurts yet. Come on. If what I read is true, which they were reporting that his shoulder's fucked up, why are you going to risk it? Now, I understand that Gardner Minshew's likelihood of winning this game is much lower than Jalen Hurts, but it's not like Gardner Minshew is one of the worst backup quarterbacks in the NFL, right? There's guys like fucking Brian Hoyer out there that are certified bums. So A.J. Brown as well as Devontae Smith should be fine. Now, is their upside the same as it would be with Jalen Hurts? Probably not, but Gardner Minshew might look to throw the ball a little bit more because Minshew doesn't run the same amount as a guy like Jalen Hurts. So I think A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith should be fine. Am I as excited? No, but the Cowboys defense over the last 2 games has really faded away. They have a big issue with who their number 2 corner is. That guy got fucking souffled by Zay Jones last week. So I think A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith should be fine. The matchup against Dallas doesn't really intimidate me too much, so even with Gardner Minshew under center, the mustache king himself, I'm playing A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. C.D. Lamb, the Lamster, up against the Eagles defense is obviously going to be a tough task, but with Dak under center, C.D.'s been really reliable, so it's not like you're going to fade away from one of the better wide receivers, one of the stud wide receivers in the NFL, and play fucking Brandon Ayuk this week or something crazy like that, right? You're going to play C.D. Lamb. Quez Watkins is going to be a sit. In any given game, he has a big upside because he is that deep down the field burner that if Jalen Hurts or Gardner Minshew, for instance, this week, fucking feeds him one over the top, he could take a 60-yarder to the end zone, definitely, but you're not going to predict that that's going to happen in any given week. That is like one of the crazier moves to do, would be playing a guy like Quez Watkins. Noah Brown, for some reason, has been the clear number 2 wide receiver on this Cowboys team recently. Michael Gallup has faded away like a shot from fucking Michael Jordan, and I guess if I had to start gun to the head, one of these two, Gallup or Brown, I'd definitely start Brown, but he's not going to be a start in this video. Next up, we move to the turn your volume down, the Las Vegas Raiders at the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, my throat's been a little bit fucked up today, so that's going to hurt later, I can already tell. Davante Adams of the Raiders going up against the Steelers. I like this spot for Davante Adams. I don't really give a fuck who Davante Adams is playing up against. Shout out to the Raiders for beating the Patriots last week. What a win. Davante Adams must start every week. It doesn't matter if he's going up against prime fucking Deion Sanders. You're still playing him. Deontay Johnson feasted last week. I kind of hopped off the Deontay Johnson bandwagon, and what's hilarious is Deontay Johnson has the most target. Now, maybe this is just fake news, but I read this the other day, and maybe it's fake, but Deontay Johnson has so many receptions without a touchdown. It's like the craziest thing ever. If this guy was scoring touchdowns, we wouldn't have been calling him a bust this year. I was a big Deontay Johnson fan. If you guys watched it in the offseason, I was banging the drum aggressively for this guy, and he hasn't paid off this season. The Raiders defense is bottom of the barrel, straight up dog shit. So I think Deontay Johnson should be able to get it done. Kenny Pickett back under center more than likely this week based upon what I read. So Johnson start, but again, one great game doesn't necessarily make me want to just get down on my knees and suck this guy's metaphorical cock, give him the Gawk Gawk 9000. I hope he's good because I like Deontay Johnson, but again, I still can't throw my full confidence behind him just yet. Mac Hollins, Hunter Renfrow. Renfrow was back. Mac Hollins still kind of the number 2 target on this team with Darren Waller back. It just kind of seems like you fade Mac Hollins and Hunter Renfrow. Hunter Renfrow, real gritty guy though. First guy in, last guy out. Real fucking lunch pail mentality. George Pickens is a sit, as is Steven Sims. If you wanted to talk yourself into playing George Pickens against a, again, really bad Raiders defense, then you can go ahead, right? Go ahead, pal. I'm not gonna fucking argue with you, but Pickens has kind of faded away a little bit recently. Now we move to Christmas. The Packers at the Dolphins. I sent my list off to Santa Claus for Christmas. I wrote that all I want for Christmas is a Miami Dolphins W here at home in Miami on Christmas. I wish I could go to this game, but I live in New Jersey, not in Miami. But Santa Claus is going to gift wrap this W for me. The Packers dominated the Rams 50 Shades of Grey style, but the Packers are not going to be able to do that up against my Dolphins. I believe that, especially the Dolphins defense at home, way better than away. Romeo Doubs back in the equation has kind of thrown a bit of a wrench into this scenario with Christian Watson. If Christian Watson turned around, though, last night and caught the ball and would have walked directly into the end zone, we're probably looking at Christian Watson a lot differently, right? The guy that was on fire for 4 straight games prior to last week. So one down game isn't going to make me run away, but I am still a little nervous, but I'm still definitely going to, like, if I have him on my team, I'm fucking playing him. Tyreek Hill must start, obviously. Jalen Waddle must start. And he waddled away, waddle, till the very next day. Bum, 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 bum. Tyreek Hill in the snow. Chef's kiss. Jalen Waddle hit the waddle in the snow. Chef's kiss. Jeff's kiss. Shout out to Jeff. Whoever the fuck Jeff is. You know, there's probably someone watching named Jeff. But not to be weird, back on into the actual point of today's video. You're starting Hill. You're starting Waddle. Good conditions in Miami. Jalen Waddle appears to be back. It seems like the team realized that, hey, maybe we should throw the fucking ball to Jalen Waddle. And Tua's out of his slump. He was in a slump for 2 straight games. He looked back last week. up against one of the better defenses in the NFL. The Packers are pretty middle of the road. Alan Lazard, the Lazard King, is going to be a sit, as is Romeo Dubes. Trent Sherfield, you motherfucker. Now, I've sung the praises of this guy, so I'm not going to jump off the bandwagon. I still like Trent Sherfield, but you motherfucker. If you caught that touchdown where Tua placed it right to where you could only catch it in the end zone. If you caught that, we would have won the fucking game, and we wouldn't have to deal with all these Bills fans saying all this bullshit about our team. The Dolphins are going to play the Bills again. You better believe it. And if you're a Bills fan, we're going to come in hot this time, and we're going to fucking beat your goddamn ass. You better believe it, pal. You better believe it. The Dolphins looked good. They got to look good here. We need 3 straight wins. Got to look on fire into the fucking playoffs, baby. I'm excited. Any Dolphins fans, fins up in the chat. Very excited for how this season has gone. I know we're on a 3-game loss streak, but we're getting back. It's a get-right game against the Packers here. Next up, we move to the second game on Sunday. The Broncos at the LA Rams. In this spot, we probably would have thought in May or June, whenever the schedule came out, ooh, this is such an exciting one. We got fucking Russell Wilson, Mr. Unlimited, going up against Matthew Stafford in the Super Bowl champion. Should be fun. And now we're in December, and this matchup reeks. We got Brett gripping it and ripping it versus Baker Mayfield. Jerry Jeudy is going to be a start because Brett Rippon just loves throwing him the ball. The rest of this game, sit Cortland Sutton, sit his ass down even if he plays. Seems like Brett Rippon just loves Jerry Jeudy. Brandon Johnson, who the fuck is that guy? Another kind of creative name. Sit him. And then the Rams got Van Jefferson, Tutu Atwell, Ben Skoranek. Broncos defense is really good. Baker Mayfield looked bad against the Packers. Pretty safe to say you should sit all of them. Next up, we move to a matchup between the Bucs at the Arizona Cardinals. Chris Godwin is a must-start at this point. Chris Godwin has taken over the last couple of weeks as Tom Brady has peppered him with targets. The Cardinals' defense is bottom of the barrel, bottom shelf, terrible. Even though Tom Brady hasn't looked the best, I think Godwin still has a great game. Mike Evans is start-worthy, but going into the year, I was a big fan of Mike Evans. Now it's kind of like you just play Mike Evans kind of because you have to, but not because you want to. But if there ever was a game for him to get right, it would be up against the Cardinals defense, who's, again, really bad. DeAndre Hopkins is a start, but just barely. He's been decent with Colt McCoy, but, like, I just don't see him smashing, being, like, this huge player. The Bucs defense, again, doesn't even look great, but, like, Colt McCoy's just so bad that it's hard to really believe in DeAndre Hopkins. Russell Gage is going to be a sit for me. He scored a tug last week, but I don't think he will again here against Arizona. Hollywood Brown has been just... Oh, I thought this was going to be such a good year. He gets injured. Now he's got Colt McCoy under center. He's a sit. Greg Dortch is going to be a sit as well. Final game here, Monday night football. The Chargers at the Indianapolis Colts. Let's keep this one simple. Michael Pittman played good last week. I don't know if he'll be able to do it again, but the Chargers defense is really bad, so he could, even though Matt Ryan's bad. Keenan Allen's must start at this point, been uber consistent over the last couple of games. Mike Williams is one of those guys that's boomer bust, game in and game out. His ceiling is the wide receiver number 1. His ceiling is going off the earth and hitting the fucking moon. His floor is the fucking basement. He might score 2 fantasy points, but at the end of the day, up against the Colts defense, a solid matchup with Justin Herbert, the pervert. I like Mike Williams. I'm sitting all the other receivers, Patty Campbell, Alec Pierce, gross. Joshua Palmer has kind of been devalued immensely by the fact that Allen and Mike Williams are healthy. So thank you guys all so much for watching. If you did end up enjoying, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below as well as hitting that like button. It would help me out a ton. If you want to follow me on Twitter, please do so at NotoriousFNTSY. Again, today's video is brought to you by BetMGM, so make sure you check them out. Link in the video description or in the pinned comment. I love you guys all so much. Hope you have a great guys' day. And as always, good boy.